Hello everyone, my name is Miley Branson and I am the Science Director here at Chugach Regional Resources Commission and the Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute, and I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit more about all of the wonderful things that we do. First, I thought I'd give a little bit of background about the Chugach Regional Resources Commission for those of you who are not familiar with all of the things that we do. We are a consortium of 7 Southcentral Alaskan tribes in Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet, and we were established to manage natural resources and engage in both terrestrial and marine science across the region on behalf of these tribes. We operate the Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute as our major subsidiary in Seward, Alaska. Before we jump into the overview of what we do at Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute, I thought I would just showcase some of the villages that make up the Chugach Regional Resources Commission's consortium. This includes Port Graham, Chiniga, Seward, or the Chugach tribe, Valdez, Nanwalik, Tutitlik, and Cordova, or the Eyak tribe. And here is our Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute. It's located in Seward, Alaska. It's down on the waterfront next to the Sea Life Center and the University of Alaska Fairbanks Seward Marine Center. Here's a little bit of a peek at what it looks like inside the Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute. We are split up into 3 major modules, and these modules are set up for mariculture and marine research activities. We also have a mariculture technical center and 2 large lab spaces, as well as an algae culture room. This is just a brief high-level overview of some of the activities that we conduct here. We have 3 major arms of the institution, the first being mariculture. We look at several different species of kelp, native shellfish, non-native shellfish, king crab, and sea cucumbers, and we participate in active development of mariculture techniques for all of these species. Second, we have our monitoring arm, and this encompasses our Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program. Within this monitoring program, we examine dissolved inorganic carbon, weather, and the presence of harmful algal blooms at all of our village locations. Finally, we have a research arm, and this arm supports research conducted both at Alutiiq Pride Marine Institute and by collaborators who utilize our facilities. This includes halibut research conducted by Alaska Pacific University, octopus research conducted by Alaska Pacific University, salmon research conducted by both University of Alaska Fairbanks and the University of Washington, several different ocean acidification exposure studies, including kelp, shellfish, and salmon, and these have been conducted by UAF, Oregon State University, and the University of Washington. And we also participate in oceanographic equipment research and development in collaboration with Oregon State University and the Ocean Foundation. This is just a brief visual overview of a few of the agencies that we work in collaboration with, as well as the agencies that fund quite a bit of our research. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the first arm that we're going to talk about today, and that is our Mariculture and Subsistence Enhancement arm. A little bit of background about why we do this. The first objective of this project is economic development. So economic development is important for seasonal workers in remote villages, and it provides year-round opportunity for these folks who may not otherwise have it. Secondly, in supporting subsistence opportunity, we're supporting and promoting food sovereignty, particularly in periods of economic hardship and supply chain disruptions, such as those that we're experiencing right now. The intrinsic value of harvesting local food in traditional ways cannot be overstated. When our tribal members lose connections to their food, they lose part of their culture, which can have negative impacts on the psyche. CERC hopes that these resources can serve as a reminder of the importance of traditional foods for Alaska Native peoples and as guides for tackling environmental issues affecting the Chugach region of Alaska. So the first mariculture project I thought we would talk about today is Kelp Miraculture. So Alutiiq Pride has been spearheading this Kelp Miraculture project in Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet. We have a total of 9 farms and test sites located near 3 of our communities, Cordova, Chiniga, and Tutitlik. We are currently growing 3 species of kelp, sugar, ribbon, and bull kelp. This is a couple of photos of our collaborators collecting kelp just outside of Cordova. We typically collect kelp in late summer, and what we are looking for is the sorus tissue. This is the tissue pictured on the right. This is a blade of kelp with, you can see the sorus tissue in the center. It's this dark reproductive tissue that releases spores that can be seeded onto seed string. So we'll typically collect this kelp, bring the sorus tissue back to Alutiiq Pride, and allow it to seed our seed string within the Alutiiq Pride Kelp Hatchery. Once the seed string is successfully seeded, we will outplant the seeded line back to the farms in the fall, and we'll typically harvest these in the spring. One of the projects we've been working on here at Alutiiq Pride is in collaboration with the Native Conservancy, and this project is a mobile kelp hatchery. So as you can see here, this is the seed string in our mobile kelp hatchery, which is basically a large shipping container converted into a grow space for seed string. So like I said earlier, we'll typically harvest in the late summer, inoculate the seed string in late summer, and then we'll allow this seed string to grow just a little bit through the fall, and then we'll take it out and outplant it to the farms in late fall / early winter. And this seed string is fully developed into mature kelp by the spring, so it can be harvested in the spring. This mobile kelp hatchery we've been working on in collaboration with the Native Conservancy can be moved to remote locations and staffed by local community members and used to start kelp farms. So now let's move into shellfish as traditional foods and subsistence enhancement that we conduct here at Alutiiq Pride. These are just a few of our tribal members harvesting shellfish. And as you can see, shellfish are an integral part of subsistence harvest. These are a couple of traditional recipes that were provided to Chugach Regional Resources Commission by some of our tribal consortium members. Okay, so the first of our shellfish enhancement projects is that of the Softshell Clam. And a little bit of background about softshell clams. They are endemic to the east coast of North America, but they have been introduced to coastal Alaska unintentionally through, it's likely that they've been introduced through ship ballast water in their larval phase, in which they are planktonic in nature. Populations of the softshell clam have been increasing in south-central Alaska, while populations of native clams have experienced a pretty significant decline. So this makes them a really interesting species. And we are thinking that they can potentially be used as an adaptation strategy for mitigating traditional shellfish harvest loss and increasing food security across south-central Alaska. So although their introduction is not considered to be technically invasive, they are somewhat replacing native clams, and we are thinking that they may replace native clams as a subsistence food source as well. All right, the other big mariculture project that we are working on is the culture of the basket cockle. So a little bit of background about basket cockles. They are a traditional native subsistence food source, but have not been produced at a marketable level. And here at Alutiiq Pride, we believe that cockles can be usefully reared by adapting existing oyster techniques and infrastructure for cockles. Cockles are used pretty widely in mariculture operations around the world, and we see no reason that they couldn't be used here in Alaska as well. This will diversify the mariculture industry in Alaska and add a new species for market potential. And the final outcome of this project will provide established seed for shellfish farmers to consider using in Alaska. We also culture a number of other native species for subsistence enhancement. As you can see, these are butter clams. They are a native species that's commonly used for subsistence around Prince William Sound. And these butter clams have been grown by Alutiiq Pride for the purposes of reseeding and subsistence enhancement in the village of Chiniga. We also culture some non-native species. These are oyster spat that we grow, and we really only grow these for the use in experimental projects, but this is just another species of shellfish that we grow here. We currently have two other mariculture projects that we're conducting at Alutiiq Pride. The first is an abalone culture project. So we have a grant through NOAA, and this grant is to experiment with mariculture research and development for pinto abalone, which are a species that is commonly fished in southeast Alaska, but hasn't been doing that well lately, and we are exploring some mariculture opportunities. We're also looking at sea cucumbers, and we've successfully spawned sea cucumbers several times before, and this is just another project where we are spawning sea cucumbers for some clients in southeast Alaska. Alutiiq Pride has also historically been a major player in the development of a shellfish enhancement model for the red king crab. We're actually the flagship hatchery in the nation for king crab enhancement, and if it ever becomes legal, we have developed a complete shellfish enhancement model for this species that's applicable for commercial fisheries. All right, let's go ahead and move into the second arm of what we do here at Alutiiq Pride, and that is ocean monitoring through our Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program. The Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program is largely dependent on community samplers, and we have these samplers in all 7 of our communities, and I'll talk a little bit more about what they do on the next slide here. This figure demonstrates the core structure of the Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program, or CROM program for short. At the top, you'll see a community sampler. This individual is a community or tribe member who collects samples on a weekly basis for Alutiiq Pride. These samples are located at all 7 of our tribal communities and submit samples to our staff on a weekly basis for analysis. On the second row in green are all of the samples and associated data collected by the field sampler. This includes phytoplankton tows, seawater chemistry samples, shellfish samples on a summer seasonal basis, and all associated environmental data. On the third row are analyses conducted for these samples. In gray are analyses conducted during 2021. Phytoplankton tows undergo microscopic species identification, either on-site or at Alutiiq Pride. Seawater carbonate chemistry samples are analyzed by Alutiiq Pride staff using the percolator to examine dissolved inorganic carbon. In pink are analyses we plan to begin in 2022. This includes biotoxin monitoring in shellfish, using both the ELISA and receptor binding assays. Finally, in blue are the analyses that we plan to bring on board in 2023. This includes quantitative PCR for all species identification and nutrient analyses. So what are the objectives and outcomes of the Chugach Regional Ocean Monitoring Program? First and foremost, we'd like to provide safe shellfish harvest for all stakeholders. This includes subsistence, mariculture, and recreational users. Secondly, we'd like to provide a record of baseline coastal marine conditions in Prince William Sound and Lower Cook Inlet. And finally, although harmful algal bloom forecasts are a pipe dream of the future, we would like to provide information on the precipitating factors for harmful algal blooms. All right, and we are moving on into the final arm of our organization here is the research arm. So we conduct quite a bit of research that's funded under a number of different agencies and funding opportunities, and a lot of it is conducted in collaboration with university, agency, and private partners. We have 2 major research and laboratory spaces. Here we have our newest laboratory. This is our biology laboratory, and this is Annette Jarris, who heads up our harmful algal bloom testing program. And she is working with Allison Carl, one of our regional biologists, on some harmful algal bloom testing. Ocean acidification is also a large part of the research that we conduct here. Here is our ocean acidification research lab. And featured in this photo is the famous percolator. This is a piece of equipment that quantifies dissolved inorganic carbon as a measure of ocean acidification in our local waters. This piece of equipment is used for a lot of different research projects, and I'll talk about a few of those in a minute here. This is a photo of University of Alaska Fairbanks graduate student Marina Washburn. What Marina's got in these tubs are actually juvenile salmon. And as part of Marina's PhD project, she is looking at the effects of ocean acidification on juvenile salmon and several species of shellfish located in Alaskan waters. This is a photo of Dr. Burke Hales from Oregon State University and our director, Jeff Hatchery. As another one of our research and development projects, we've been working with Dr. Hales on a portable carbon dioxide meter that works in both hatchery and field settings. This is called the PCO to go, and we've been working with Dr. Hales on developing this meter for quite some time now. And that's all I have to share with you today. If you're interested more in some of the things that we do, feel free to check us out at crrcalaska.org or alutiiqprideak.org. You can also check us out on our Facebook. And if you have any questions about anything we talked about here today, feel free to shoot me an email. My email is miley@alutiiqprideak.org. Thank you.